Welcome to Litbit channel. Today we will see the lesson The Town by the Sea by Amitav Ghosh. Let's see the summary of this lesson. In introduction part, the devastations caused by the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami forever altered the lives of those cast in its path. This essay recounts the harrowing experience of a man known as the director who lived through the tragedy while on official travel in Port Ballon. His journey through grief and resilience is a poignant reflection on loss, human endurance, and the deep connections we hold to the people we love. The director's tale is a powerful reminder the complex of survival and the way we cope up with unimaginable tragedy. Next one, the earthquake and the call on December 25th, 2004. The director was in Port Ballon, away from his family, who remained in Malacca, Nicobar. The next morning, an earthquake shook his surroundings, forcing him to flee. During the chores, his wife called from Nicobar, but the director, prioritizing his safety, decided to return the call later. However, when the tsunami struck, the rising water, the distractions, and the chores left him increasingly anxious about the fate of his family. He repeated attempts to reach them were met with silence. Next moment of the essay, the news from his son later that day. The director finally received the news of his family. His 13 years old son had survived by sailing to the raft of the church, which stood just 200 meters behind their home. The son recounted the tsunami dramatic events that lead to the destruction of their house, describing how the family was catch off guard by the monstrous waves. The director's wife and daughter had vanished, swept away by the force of the water. This moment shattered the director's heart as he realized the unimaginable loss his son had endured and the guilt the boy felt through entirely unwanted. Next event, the search for loved ones driven by both hope and despair, the director flew to Nicobar the next day to search for his family. The devastations he encountered was immense. Homes were erased, wreckage littered the landscape, and few traces of life remained. Despite his connections and resourcefulness, he found no sign of his wife or daughter. His search extended beyond the physical. It was also an emotional journey as he confronted the reality of the loss while navigating his new responsibilities as a father to his grieving. Next moment is a nature's selective destruction. The journey through Nicobar revealed a strange juxtaposition. While the tsunami obliterated human habitation, much of the natural world remained intact. Coconut palms stood tall and the forest canopy appeared untouched, as if nature had been spared while humanity bore the full brunt of the disaster. This contrast emphasized the arbitrary and selective destructions of the tsunami, a natural force that spread nothing human yet left nature standing. And is a return to the ruins of home. The director's search took him to a place where his home once stood, now reduced to its concrete foundation. As he shifted through the rumble, he found a fragment of his past household object, a suitcase, a steel trunk with his name, and even slides of his research. Yet it was the sight of his daughter's yellow paint box that most deeply affected him. The box, a symbol of his daughter's talent and life. It was left behind, not taken. The director's refusal to take it with him reflected his struck understanding that nothing could bring back what he had been lost. Next moment of this essay, the unchosen path of grief, the director's response to the tragedy was not one of the despair but of acceptance and resolve. He chose not to dwell on what was gone but instead focus on preserving what little he could. His methodical gathering of his slides, which had survived the destruction, highlighted his determination to salvage seemed to take a back seat to his desire to retain some semblance of order and purpose in the face of the incident of the story. The innermost sovereignty of self the director chose in the aftermath of the tsunami revealed an essential truth about grief and survival. Each person's response is deeply personal and shaped by their inner self. The director's decision to leave behind the paint box, his refusal to dwell on the personal loss, and his methodical salvage of his professional work were all expressions of his innermost self. His action reflected the sovereignty of the individual in this time of crisis, when shows are not driven by the rational thought but by the core of who we are. Conclusion part: the director's journey through the wreckage of the tsunami is a story of resilience, loss, and the complex of human emotion in the face of tragedy. His action, shaped by the both duty and personal grief, revealing the multifaced way we cope with the tsunami. Then, through his story, we are reminded that in the extremely of such moment, our choice or reflections of the deepest part of ourselves. The director refusal to give in to despair and his focus on preserving what remained of his life are a testament to the enduring strength of the human spirit, even in the face of the unimaginable. Let's we see the character of the story. The narrator, scientist, the protagonist of the story, a scientist who is in Port Bala when the tsunami hits. He is the father and husband of the family member. As a scientist, he is trained to observe and report facts, which is reflected in his narrative style. Then, despite his detachment, he is deeply emotional and vulnerable, particularly when it comes to his family. He feels guilty for not being with his family when the tsunami strikes and for not being able to protect them. Then he is desperate to find his family and will stop at nothing to locate them. Then he reflects on the tragedy and it impacts on him and the world around him. The event leaves him traumatized and he struggles to come to terms with the loss. Then, despite the personal tragedy, he retains his scientific curiosity and observes the tsunami impact on the environment. The narrated character adds depth and complexity to the story, exploring the human side of the natural disaster. Next one is the scientist wife. The narrator wife who is in Malacca with their children when the tsunami strikes. Her fate is unknown for most of the story. By the Amitav Ghosh, she is a significant character, although she is not physically present for most of the story. Her character can be interfered through the narrator through thoughts and emotion. She is a devoted mother and wife concerned about her family well-being. Then she supports her husband's scientific pursuits and is understanding of his absence. Then the narrator memories of her are vivid and fond, indicating a strong bond between them. Then she represents the ordinary life the narrator once had, which is now lost. Then, like other characters in the story, she is not named, emphasizing the universality of the tragedy. Then her absence for most of the story creates a sense of longing and tension, highlighting the narrator's dispersions to find her. Her fate is unknown for most of the story, leaving the readers in suspense and emphasizing the uncertainty of life. The scientist's wife is a vital character and her presence is felt throughout the story, even in her absence. Next one is the scientist's daughter, the narrator's daughter who is in Malacca with her mother and brother. She is lost in the tsunami. Then she is a child who has been thrown away from her family and her life. Then her fate is uncertain and she is at the mercy of the tsunami destruction. Her father's love for her is evident in his desperate search for her and his family. Then his disappearance represents the loss and devastations caused by the tsunami. Like other characters in this story, she is not named, emphasizing the universality of the tragedy. Then her fate is ultimately tragic as she is lost in the tsunami, leaving her father with a sense of guilt and grief. Then, the scientist's daughter character serves to highlight the human cost of natural disasters and the unbearable loss that families face in such tragedies. Next character is the scientist's son, the narrator's son, who is in Malacca with his mother and sister. He is found alive but injured. Then he is a 13 years old boy who survives the tsunami and its aftermath. He is able to find help and support despite the chores and destruction around him. Then he managed to contact his and provide him with information about his family's situation. He is deeply affected by the loss of his mother and sister, and the experience leaves him scared. Then, his survival and resourcefulness offer a glimmer of hope in the midst of tragedy. Then he is eventually reunited with his father, providing a sense of closure and comfort. The scientist's son character serves to highlight the resilience and strength of children in the face of adversity and the importance of family bonds in times of crisis. Other minor characters are government officials and officials who provides the scientist with information about the disaster and its impact on Malacca. Then he is a representative of the government and his response are formal and official. Then he provides the scientist with information about the disaster and its impact on Malacca. Then he is detached from the personal tragedy of the scientist family, focusing on the larger picture. Then he presents a realistic view without sugarcoating the truth. He represents the government response to the disaster, which is often slow and inadequate. Then he is limited in his ability to help the scientist, highlighting the limitation of government support in times of crisis. The government official's character serves to contrast the personal, emotional experience of the scientist with the more formal, official response to the disasters, highlighting the tension between individual tragedy and the bureaucratic process. Other minor characters are the town people, the peoples of the town who are struggling to come to terms with the devastations and loss caused by the tsunami. They are seen helping each other and searching for loved ones. Thank you viewers. Thanks for watching this video.